Hello VC, Michael Clash City Rocker with a video to discuss with you the Beatles Mono Box set. So here's my high-tech prop. And apparently this is the back, potentially, of the Beatles Mono Box set. A lot of box sets have this kind of paper overlay, which gives information on it, and then you can either keep it or take it off. And as you can see, it says the mono mixes from the original masters. 11 albums pressed on heavyweight 180 gram vinyl, replicas of the original LP slaves and artwork. The mono masters compilation released on vinyl for the first time, and it talks about the booklet and it shows the 11 albums that are in this box set. And as I have been watching videos in the VC, there has been a near obsessive fixation on the Beatles Mono Box set. In fact, I can't tell you how many VC videos I've watched where people have the Mono Box set right behind them as some sort of signifier, as a statement of who they are as a collector. Like, I have this thing. And then there's an equal number of people out there who really would like to have that, but it's just cost prohibitive. And then there's a whole swell of videos about how it's the best sounding Beatle albums, and there's zillions of versions of Beatle albums. We just had this 64 replicas that came out last year. And me as a Beatle fan, and I've talked to you about this in other videos, was as a kid, you know, I bought Beatle records and I just picked up whatever was available. So here's my first Rubber Soul, my favorite Beatle album. This came out, it's a stereo version. It's on Rainbow label. Again, you can see no inner sleeve. I didn't know, didn't care. Played this record to death, loved it. And then my copy of Revolver, again, from when I was a kid, another stereo version. And this one, again, no inner sleeve on the orange Capitol label, but again, I didn't really care. They were, you know, I just wanted the records. And in 2009, the Beatles released a box set of all of their records, and I got that as a gift, very happy, on CD. And a friend of mine said, well, did you get it in mono? You know, you need to hear those records in mono. And I'm like, I didn't even know what he was really talking about, because to me, again, the records were always in stereo. I mean, you would accidentally get one in mono occasionally, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And then one day I was at my local record store and they had this. And just check with my elaborate notes that I have here. It was 2016 and they had this in the racks. There's a little hype sticker. Beatles in mono, heavyweight 180 gram vinyl, cut from the original master tapes, blah, blah, blah. It has all the inserts. And they had this one. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, cool, brand new vinyl, my two favorite Beatle albums. And they also had this one. And so I bought them. And again, this was 2016, and I think I paid $30 for them. And so I played these and I played these and I played these, and I loved them. And my favorite Beatle era is 64 to 66. They were touring. I think that's when they were the best. I think that's when they were a real band. And so I decided I'd get the other records that came out in 64 to 66. And that required me going to Discogs. So I ordered this one, and I went into my sales history, and apparently I bought Hard Day's Night November 15th, 2018 for $25. A little hype sticker. And then I bought Help, I guess right before it, the month before, August 1st, 2018 for $35. And then one of those vendors also had this one with the Beatles, and I think I paid $30 for it. And I think these three I ordered through Discogs and I ended up buying them in Eastern Europe. So somehow or another, I pieced together the 64 to 66 Beatles mono reissues, and I was really happy with it. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And then a couple years later, or in the next year, like 2019, I don't know how it happened. I went to my local and there was this brand new sealed, because I wanted a vinyl version of the White Album, and they had this one, and I didn't realize until I got home that it was the mono version. I'm like, cool, fine, I'll take it. So somehow or another, just by happenstance, I pieced together 7 of the 11 records that are in this Beatles Mono Box set, and I was fine. You know, I'm good with that. Got my favorites: Rubber Soul, Hard Day's Night, Help, Revolver. But I kept watching all these VC videos with the people with the mono boxes behind them and talking about it, and all the people who want it, and everybody talking about the price, and everybody talking about it's the best sounding Beatle albums. So I decided to take a tip from this man in black, Johnny Cash. Someday I'm going to do a video series on this series of records. And if you remember, in 1976, Johnny Cash released a record called One Piece at a Time, about how he worked at a car factory putting together cars, and he and his buddies like snuck out the parts to the car one piece at a time and put together a Cadillac. So I decided, what the heck, I'm going to create my own Beatles Mono Box set, one piece at a time. Now, I won't have the box, but we've already talked about the whole box issue last year with the 64 reissues and how you paid an extra $80 for the box. And I said, well, can't be that bad. I'll start looking on Discogs. And so I went online and I was just blown away by the prices. So the first one I got was this one. And the average price for this right now is $152.65 on Discogs. And I paid, I think, well, I probably shouldn't say how much I paid, but I paid less than that. We'll just say that, okay? I paid a reasonable amount for this, and I was happy with it. I think the only thing this one didn't have was the little mustache inserts. But again, I have those in other records. I just wanted this. And then, again, I'm doing my Johnny Cash, one piece at a time, Beatles Mono Box. And so I picked up this one. And this one is the most expensive one on Discogs right now. It's going to cost you $160, according to Media. Now, the thing about Discogs, and all of you know it, and again, I have an academic background, and this whole statistics about median here is so flawed. The fact that they enter, how they compute that is statistically wouldn't fly in any other context. But anyways, here it is, $160. Good luck trying to find this for $160 though. And so this one I purchased for, again, a lot less than that. Pretty much what I paid for the Sgt. Pepper. So I was happy with that. It was cool. And then the next one that I needed was this one, the Mono Masters. And originally I bought this from a vendor and they sent me the Stereo Masters, even though they had it listed at the Mono Masters. That's a whole nother story. And this one goes for $144.97, and I paid for it what I had paid for the Sgt. Pepper and the Magical Mystery Tour. So I'm like, cool, that's fine. I understand, you know, it's 2024. I'm not going to be able to walk into a store and find these, although I did see this in a used record store the other day for $150. I'm going to have to buy them on Discogs. That's just the way it is. And, you know, I didn't just like pounce on them as soon as I saw them. I waited until I was able to find one in the price I was willing to do. So I was only missing one. This one. And I was blown away at how expensive this one was and how hard it was to find. According to Discogs, the median price of this is $146 basically. And like Sgt. Pepper and the Beatles White Album, copies of this go well over $300. So I have, miraculously, and I'm not going to hold up all 11 of them again, pieced together, Johnny Cash style, my Beatles Mono Box set. Now, I don't have it in a box. I can't put it on the shelf behind me. I don't have the booklet, although I did see the booklet listed on eBay for $250, which for a book, probably not going to spend. But it got me thinking. So if I wanted to buy the Beatles Mono Box right now on Discogs, and yes, I know how to share my screen and have this actually come up instead of a piece of paper, but I don't feel like doing it. You can, allegedly, the median price for the Mono Box is $12.95 with a high of $22.95. I bought my 11 copies of the Beatles mono reissues for $680. So about $600 cheaper than that. What's interesting though is that there are a few for sale right now, and the cheapest is $1,400 and the highest is $3,500. In fact, the $3,500 one, they're asking for $1,000 shipping. And this is, again, I know how to share my screen and I could do it, but I kind of like this paper high-tech version I'm doing here. The last copy that was sold was March 1st, 2025, and somebody paid $16.29 for it. Who knows what shipping was or taxes for a near mint copy of it. So good for them. But I love the Beatles, and I think that, and I agree with everyone, this is the best way to hear the Beatles are on the original British records with the mono mixes. But the price is just crazy. And so I'm feeling very fortunate that I was able to do my one piece at a time Beatles Mono Box set. I feel for people who would like to have a version of it. Hopefully it'll get reissued at some point. But I guess I'm trying to be more optimistic, is that as a collector, and that's what we all are, it's fun to kind of find some of it like in the wild and find a great price, and then to stock it online at Discogs or eBay, or just being surprised by it or something like that. And yeah, I'm amazed. So the average price of all of those, if you bought them singularly, is $13.38 according to Discogs. Again, the average of those records is about $120, $125 a piece. So that, piecing that together, Beatles Mono Box set started another version of my collecting, and that is I decided to go and buy American mono versions of all the Beatle records with the original liner notes. So there's my Rubber Soul, there's my Revolver, and my next one after this, I'm going to go after the British Parlophone Beatle monos. Again, I'm a collector. It's what I like to do. It's part of the reason I'm part of this community. I just enjoy it. I like the pursuit. I like the research. I like the thinking about it. And yeah, it is probably one of the happiest parts of my collection is my piece together, one piece at a time, Beatle Mono Box set. Now, before I end, one little bit of shilling. I found this in a used bookstore about a year or so ago. The book is called The Beatles on Vinyl, the must-have records for your collection. It's kind of it's not a great detailed book, like some of us, spacing on the author at the moment. But there's lots of really good information in here. But what I found interesting was they talked about the box set in here. And again, I thought I had it bookmarked, but I dropped my bookmark. Page 106. They talk about the Beatles' various box sets and the anthology, which I have as well. And there it is, the Beatles in mono. And here's what they have to say. I did have it bookmarked. Flaherty. Also, Beatles in mono vinyl version, released September 9th, 2014. Also originally released on CD, it was almost 5 years later before the much anticipated limited edition heavyweight 180 gram vinyl box set remastered in launch, blah, blah, blah. In addition, blah, blah, blah. The sound quality throughout is staggeringly good, which I would agree. Well worth the cost if you got a decent hi-fi, but not so easy to find. And I agree. It wasn't easy to find. I had to piece it together one piece at a time, Johnny Cash style. But I'm glad I got it. Huge Beatle fan. And that's my Beatles Mono Box set. Peace.